there is a picture of me on a monitor, and
I'll have to show them later. Okay.
do I keep talking?
Yeah. I mean, we're not recording.
Yeah, no, we're not
We
recording.
haven't started yet.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out what we're talking about so that when we go, when we start recording, it can actually be good radio.
Well, you're up there in San Rafael, and I'm here in South Bay, Silicon Valley. So I'm a business attorney for small businesses, startups, entrepreneurial type businesses, contract reviews, dispute resolution, mediation, arbitration. The whole thing is you try and not go into court. Courts are very lengthy. You don't make any money in the court. You have to work out agreements, and that's what I do.
Okay.
Cool. What do you got, Edward, in terms of questions? Let's make some good radio here.
Let's see. Hold it. You didn't send me any specific questions. So what did you want to talk about besides mediation?
Well, you can talk about contract reviews, the importance of partnership agreements with new businesses. Whenever they have an issue with a problem, what you do is you go back and you look at the business. You look at their contract, whether they have a solid one, whether they have a way. What happens when the two parties don't get along, and those are all started out by agreement.
I've already got some good questions, so I know what to do now.
I was gonna take you down the residential mortgage path. This is Rob Spinoza with RPM. We are seeing a lot of borrowers try to use business funds to facilitate their residential purchases, and I'm wondering how that's filtering through to the partners.
Okay.
If you're seeing any of that.
Well, Small Business Administration has what they call microloans. They're really for only $25,000 or less, and the paperwork is not too bad. It's sort of bad, but it's not too lengthy. But you can get Small Business Administration loans for up to $500,000, and usually, unless it's a production company, a company that does electronics and a lot of factory work, $500,000 is not even anything. But a lot of businesses can be payroll. They can do some startup costs to get started off of SBA loans.
Yep.
And they're all set up for businesses of employees of under probably 100.
Okay, and so Holden, what we're going to do is, are you guys ready to go? Okay, let me just tell you ahead of time. So Mark, your question is, how much are retirement assets considered when you look at a borrower?
Okay.
And Rob, your question is, do you count retirement funds when considering the ability to repay?
Okay, good question.
Okay. All right.
So we're going to have, we'll have Holden on for a couple of segments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Holden, I'm already thinking, I'm probably going to ask you a question, and it might sound more like a statement, but I know that from my own experience, 30 years in business, it's so easy to get into a partnership, and so many times you just really don't want to go through the formality of putting together a partnership agreement because you're all excited about doing stuff together, and then what inevitably happens, you start having disagreements, and there isn't an agreement or a strong agreement in play that addresses those issues.
Okay, so we'll get into that when we get in. Okay, so Holden, what we're going to do is I'm going to do 5 seconds of silence, and I'm going to start the show. And after I say, today's special guest is, should I just say H.W. Green? Do you go by that?
Just say Holden. Just say Holden Green.
Holden Green. Okay. And okay, so then when I say, Holden Green, and I'll say welcome, welcome to the best of investing, and you say, thanks guys for having me on, and then I'm just gonna, and then Mark, you just come right in and ask him.
Yeah, sure. I'll
Okay.
do just a little
Okay.
quick. Make sure you introduce him as a business attorney. We're going to talk a little about mediation and partnership
Exactly.
agreements.
Very good. Okay. I'm gonna set the
And
timer.
partnership agreement.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
mediation and partnership agreements. Exactly.
Okay, so we need just a few seconds of silence here, and then just wait for me to introduce you. Okay. All right. So hold on a second. Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing on Talk 910. I'm your host, Edward Brown. I'm proud to have as my co-host Mark Hoff of Pacific Private Money, one of California's fastest growing mortgage investment firms, and Rob Spinoza of RPM Mortgage. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Now use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during this show. And the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, which is located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. The vacations are free. They only request a $75 cleaning fee to cover the housekeeping expenses. By the way, you got to check out their cabins. They just redid them. Looks very, very nice. And the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station. Okay, just want to make sure I make that clear.
They're still great vacations.
They're still great vacations. They only want a $75 cleaning fee to cover the housekeeping expenses. And today's trivia theme is just miscellaneous trivia. I'm going to get you all over the board.
Thanks, that narrows it down.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Are you going to hit us with women's trivia again?
No more women's trivia for now. Okay, our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on television, Comcast Channel 26 and AT&T Channel 99, Saturdays at noon, Sundays at 6 p.m. Now today we have a special guest on the phone who is Holden Green. He's a business attorney, and we're going to talk about partnership agreements and mediation. And Mark, I think you got a question you're itching to ask.
Well, I did. Holden, welcome to the Best of Investing. Thank you for being here. And
Thanks for having me.
yeah, absolutely. So I love this topic because as someone who's been in business since 1982, I guess I'm going on 33 years now, I've actually been involved in a number of partnerships and joint ventures with various individuals. And I got to tell you, more often than not, you know, we never actually had a formal agreement set up in advance before we started because we were always excited about getting into business. And it was a handshake deal, and then
He's my partner. What
and,
could go
and
wrong?
nothing ever goes wrong.
yeah, right, exactly. And inevitably, stuff goes wrong. So, you know, how do you encourage people to come to someone like you first
Great question.
before they start putting money down on a business venture?
Well, it's a great question. What partner has a vision? They're really solid business people, and the term is always out there. They don't really know what it is, but they know that it's important to have an agreement. It can be as little as 3 pages. It shouldn't be really more than 7 because then it becomes too involved and it becomes too much language. And so that's how it happens in business. And basically, what each side does was this is their wish list. The other side has their wish list, whatever partners it is, and then many times they have ideas or wants that all 3 agree on just naturally. So those go in the partnership agreement. And then one person that may say it's not as important, but it is. There's a business dispute. Vendors aren't getting paid. How do we resolve issues? Someone's out of town, who is authority? And so business agreements are very positive in setting the rules of the road, for lack of a better word, and a frame, and they have it maybe notarized. If you don't have lawyers, they just have it notarized. And then that authentic signature, and it lets them know that any problem arises, and they always will, there's an agreement that they all agree on that they're going to stick by because it's enforceable,
Right.
and then they don't get sidetracked by bickering and arguing.
Holden, do you find that even simply by putting that in effect, I don't know if there's any way to quantify this, but simply by having that in effect, the partners, let's say, behave better because they're aware that it exists? Does it help contain problems in a way?
Well, I think that happens is that most people during the honeymoon phase of a
Right.
Yeah.
they sign it and they forget about it and they talk
Good point.
before,
Sure.
and then they forget about the partnership agreement, and then one of them brings it out and says, "Oh, remember you signed this? Remember the clause you agreed to? Oh yeah, there it is." And then they take it. They go, "Oh yeah, you're right." And then that argument, whatever that dust up, stops.
Got it.
That conflict vanishes. And then they correct it. Then they keep going and correcting whatever they're going on, and that sort of helps when they see it. They signed it. It's in their language. It's in their handwriting. And they go, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." Okay, fine.
So Holden, here's an important follow-up question. The agreement you're talking about is usually items that are not contained in a typical, say, LLC operating agreement or typical partnership agreement that you would buy off the internet or even from an inexpensive attorney. Usually they're very generic in nature. Do you have a separate agreement for the actual business agreements itself, or do you try to combine that into the entity document or the operating agreement of the entity itself?
Well, those online, like legal bids,
Legal Zoom.
bids or legal forms, those are always good as a starting point. But every business is unique. The agreement has to be unique. And a lot of those agreements have the law, like the health and safety codes, the B&B codes, and those are good because those are blanketed everywhere. But because a business is a living, breathing sort of commerce organism, for lack of a better word, it really needs to be tailored
Person.
Yeah.
and put on a disc page. So there is not one-stop shop at the start, but the shop has to be tailor-made for that business.
Okay, so and I'm going to piggyback off of Mark's question and ask, do your agreements, the ones that you encourage, do they vary based on the type of entity that they're creating, S corporation or anything like that?
Well, yeah, now, if the partnership agreement, if it's incorporated, the Secretary of State, then that has a lot of language that needs to be attached
Got it.
to that business agreement. So, because you need a business partnership agreement to get loans, to get financing, to get cloud funding. They don't really want, they want that partnership agreement.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a document that helps create money for the business. But the best thing to do is to do your wish list and then make it into a document that they sign on each page, like a real estate.
Yeah.
Everyone initials. If it's a big clause like we go to arbitration, we don't go to court. We go to arbitration with mediation. That clause is a separate client line or a partnership line, so there's no doubt that they are committed to what it says. Because they are going to have to, because one of them is going to enforce it, and a court will agree with it. So it's important to have that done, and a template online is not going to do all that.
So Holden, when we introduced you, you said that you work on you're a specialist in partnership agreements and mediation. So how much of your practice is working with people who didn't have an agreement versus people who are coming in and saying, "Hey, we need we need your help in putting together a business agreement"?
And the ones that come to the firm for help are the ones that do not have an agreement. It was all done informally. It was all done by a handshake. I promise I'll never do anything you don't like. And then, so the people that come in with crisis, usually they have a summons and complaint or mediation case because they don't have any structure of what to do. So of course they can't go by themselves. So that's being a lawyer. And it's avoidable, but it's a real problem, and they have to step up.
Okay, hey, hold it, stay with us. We're going to cut to our first commercial break, and the theme is miscellaneous trivia. All right, we're going to go to Mark's favorite sport, curling. In a game of curling, what is the very center of the target of rings called? Remember how they push with the stone and the brooms and all that? What's that? What do they call that center? We're going to give a free vacation out to the third caller with the correct answer to that one. Boy, if we get even 3 calls on that one, it'll be interesting. Okay,
are we broadcasting Canada or not?
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard of Hawaii before.
I don't think Hawaii.
But that's true. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. In a game of curling, what is the very center of the target of rings called? And when you call this phone number, that's 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name and your email address, and we will be right back. All right, that's our first segment. Let me save the file here. We'll go on to segment number 2, and we can hear you very well, so that's good. Okay. File, save that. And I think what I'd like to ask him is about, the mediation. Do you like clauses, mediation first and then arbitration, declining arbitration?
Yeah, good.
All right, so this is going to be online, August 22nd. And then Holden, are you going to work on getting us a 30-second commercial?
Yeah, and then at some point I can drive up to San Rafael and actually be on the live show.
Well, we don't do it live. We always record on Thursday. Like right now, we're recording.
Right.
And then it'll air on Saturday.
So yeah, we have to work on that, and just that I know we're on the airline, but I'm having surgery next Friday.
Okay. Well, we can again just whenever you're ready is fine. But at least this one will air in 2 days. All right, Mark, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Okay. Let's come back and we'll
Quote SpongeBob, I'm ready.
Here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn of Pacific Private Money and Rob Spinoza of RPM Mortgage. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. In a game of curling, what is the very center of the target of rings called?
The vortex.
The bullseye.
Yeah, that.
Close. The button.
The butt.
The button. Right on the button.
Right on the button.
Right on the
Yeah,
button. Okay.
right.
Now, on the phone, we have business law attorney Holden Green, and he's got his own company, and we've been talking partnership agreements and mediation and all that kind of fun stuff. And Holden, one of the things I wanted to ask you is when you put a partnership agreement together, do you prefer to put, you have to go to mediation first and then non-binding arbitration, then binding arbitration, or how do you personally see these kind of agreements? How do you like to do them?
Well, the first thing I always put in there is to do a mediation. It's non-binding. It is a neutral mediator that both sides can think that they don't know, and then they can either. And usually, hopefully at this point, they're in the same room together, and they're just hashing out their differences. A lot of times, they can rework the business agreement, make it stronger, and so mediation has a very great, pretty low cost value. Maybe you can do it in the morning or an afternoon. Do it at any but office or conference room, and it's a great way to sort of take a reset button on what's sort of swelling into a breakup or a takeover or something aggressive.
And do you find that the mediator is almost like trying to telegraph what would happen in a court case? To kind of, I don't say read the riot act to
Yeah,
one
look,
party
guys,
versus the other.
settle this
Kind of
here.
like,
It's in your best interest.
exactly. So
Yeah.
listen, if you go to court, this is what I think the outcome's going to be.
Well, I think that depends on what kind of mediator you want. Some mediators are judges, former judges such as Jam, where you get an actual judge that decides your mediation. Some of them are experienced attorneys
Right.
that do it. Some of them are mediators who are not attorneys, and it just depends on. Obviously, they have to be prepared. You have to give them advance sheet on what the problems are on both sides, and that way it's a productive meeting at the start. And then, of course, that doesn't work. Then you go into there is no binding mediation; it's arbitration. You have non-binding arbitration. So we'll agree to it, we'll settle it all ourselves, or it's binding whatever we agree on. Usually, it's in the partnership agreement. The partnership agreement says binding arbitration is part of the language that they sign, and then whatever they agree on, that's it. Attorney's fees, costs, rules. That's it. It's court enforceable. That's what was done by a judge.
And do you have a specialty in your practice, or is it specifically, partnership agreements and mediation?
Well, I think it's a contract review, partnership agreement. Since I've been an attorney for 14 and a half years, mediation and arbitration, I don't. Traditionally, I'm representing one side. Usually, they're the client of the office. I'm the regular client, and okay, Mr. Green, we need you to mediate this. Then that's my role. But it's as a representative on one side or the other, not mediation with both sides, one side or the other. And it could be either any side.
Whoever gets to you first.
Whoever calls first
Yeah.
says, you're my attorney, so they go get their own. And it's usually the first one that hits that buzzer.
Hey Holden, question for you. What do you find is one of the more common elements that are missing from maybe a boilerplate agreement that the existing partners put together and now they're in dispute over?
Dispute resolution. There's no dispute resolution clause.
Wow. No dispute. And I guess that makes sense. That's,
We're never going to have a
That's right.
dispute.
It's just something that's gonna
It's
come
like
up.
going into
Right.
a marriage with a
Prenup,
prenup.
yeah.
Going, you're destined for failure. So let's not even let's avoid all that. Yeah. Wow.
No, and that might be a strategy at one side that they don't
Oh yeah.
tell you about. Let's say you don't know the partnership that well. You get them, you get a couple lunches. They have more money. You don't have much money. I need them seed money, so I'll let them be a partner. And then they could really have some ulterior motives and sort of be the Shark Tank.
Right. So you don't want to introduce that like, hey, I need your help to get this business off the ground. Now let me put some limitations on what we're going to do here. That kind of
And
thing.
they're going to say, well, don't you trust me? No.
I don't trust anybody.
Just in case.
Well,
One of us, is incapacitated or we have other issues. This agreement is very basic. It's very fair. Feel free to have your own attorneys look at the agreement. I don't want to do anything that's sort of spooky or covert. And then, well, that's not too bad if you're saying it that way. And then they sign it, and then they're in the clause. And then now, of course, a lot of agreements don't have a revocation clause. Well, how is this agreement revoked? Well, the business is out of business. One person buys it out of the business. Their stock shares. They become more complicated because they have to deal with shares and what's given out, such as. But a lot of agreements, such as online, do not have revocation clauses, don't have dispute resolution clauses, and those are the two very important ones because you can't open the door and have it closed and then say, well, can we fix it? And by that time, no one questions it.
I'll tell you one interesting thing. We see this a lot on the residential mortgage side. Sometimes when a self-employed individual has unwound a business, there's nothing legally to say that it's unwound. And if they claim the losses on that, we might be factoring them into their application, and they'll say, oh, yeah, well, that business is gone. We'll say, prove it. And they don't have a way to do so.
Yeah, they just stopped working.
Right.
In the business.
Right.
Yeah. And before I forget, audience, you're listening to the Best of Investing. We have Holden Green on, who is a business law. He's a business attorney. And Holden, just if the audience is listening and they are thinking, you know what, I've got a partnership agreement. I'd like someone to review. How would they get a hold of you?
Well, they can contact me. The founder of the firm is hwgreen.com, and then there's all the information. There's all the categories. And there are blogs. There's client testimonials. There's license agreements. Sometimes businesses have to go in front of city governments to get approval for different buildings. And so all that is the website. They can do a contact through the website or directly at hwgreen@att.net.
Okay. Yeah, and you're located in the South Bay, right?
The South Bay.
Yeah. We have a lot of listeners in the San Jose area, so it's very convenient for them to go see you.
But in this day and age, you don't have to be local.
That's
There's
true.
A lot of stuff.
And another thing I want to tell you is that important is that with all the social media, you put a social media clause in your agreement that says, if you have a problem with us, you cannot storm.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Because social media stays online forever. Businesses don't get a break. It's very damaging. It cuts off supplies. Suppliers who don't really know you see this blog, how it's terrible, it's not really trustworthy. So you always have a social media clause.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, I would never think of that offhand.
They didn't have it in the 1890s, but I guess they didn't need it back then. Can't gossip to your neighbors, Wow. Anything else you wanted to tell us, Holden, before we let you go?
No, I just wanted to say that I want to thank you for having me. I want to say that I thought that our reception is clear.
Yeah.
And,
No,
Even if the legal agreement isn't.
No, I'm just really glad. I mean, you definitely pointed out some things.
Yeah,
me to
very
think about.
insightful stuff.
Yeah, very good about it, especially about like the social media that you just mentioned at the end. And just to have someone review the contract, and just the idea of going into a partnership with the wish list. I didn't really think about that. I thought about, okay, hey, I'm going to go into partnership with Rob, do something. I didn't really think about the idea of, hey, maybe I should put a wish list together. What do I want to see out of this partnership per se? So that I really appreciate that.
and even with families and loved
Oh yeah.
I bet.
where your guard is down, then you really could get hit with problems.
All right. So thank you.
You're so intimidated to speak up.
All right. So we've been
Thanks,
having Holden Green of hwgreen.com on the phone. If you have any questions about partnerships or mediation, or want them to look over contracts for you, or put
Word to the
contracts
wise.
together. Yeah, word to the wise. Get in touch with H.W. Green.
It's money well spent because it's a little bit of money that prevents a lot of money being spent on it.
There you go. That's the important thing.
Absolutely true.
Great. Thanks again.
Businesses do not have extra money. They need the money to make the business grow, not to give to lawyers when they don't need to hire them if they had agreement and pre-litigation in place. It's a half a day and it's not forever.
Well, see, that's a good lawyer who says he wants to be like basically kind of out of business, so to speak, right?
Right.
Don't hire me for all this other stuff. Hire me ahead of time to avoid all those extra costs. Thank
Good
you,
point.
Holden, for joining us on the Best of Investing. Okay, go ahead. Well, that was good. That was good. I like
Interesting,
some of the stuff that he
Yeah.
had to say. Okay, we're going to cut to our second commercial break here, and the trivia theme is miscellaneous trivia, and got to keep you guys in suspenders there. All right. At what age does the human brain stop growing in size? I'm sure my wife would say 55, because that's how old I am. But the third caller with the correct answer is going to win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. At what age does the human brain stop growing in size? All right. And stay with us. You're listening to The Best of Investing. We're going to be right back.
I think it's pretty early.
2.
When I went on my cruise, I did a trivia thing, and so like I said, hey, those are good trivia questions. I want those, so they sent them to me.
I think it's pretty early. It's probably like 4 or 5 years old, right?
You're just gonna have to guess on the air, my friend.
My son's noggin's pretty big already, and so maybe the brain in there is already, size-wise.
Isn't that amazing?
I think they say your eyeballs are from birth are the
Stay the same.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of weird because
It doesn't seem that way, but
yeah, the eye is so amazingly complicated. Like a single cell is more complicated when you look at it, and what goes on there is more complicated than a space shuttle. One single cell.
in your eye or just
No,
in
just
general?
in general.
Yeah.
Because of all the
I always say that imagine like artificial intelligence. Imagine that they got computers so ultra powerful and so small that eventually it became a cell.
yeah, that's basically what it is.
You're moving away from
Yeah.
big vacuum tubes. Now you're into silicon transistors and circuits and stuff. And then what happens
Yeah.
when it eventually becomes carbon?
Yeah. Well, some of the things, like you look at the little things that swirl so fast. I mean, when you study that stuff, it's fascinating, and you have no idea.
Awesome stuff.
All right.
So Rob's got the whole table here covered.
Well, I
cool articles, and I'm glad you did, because I didn't get a chance to do any of that because of stuff I got to go on.
So there's a couple of things here. You want to go to the caller questions?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
go that, and then
Branch off of that?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Away we go. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn and Rob Spinoza. We cut to the second commercial break. We asked this trivia question. At what age does the human brain stop growing in size?
I'm gonna say 4.
6.
Ike, 18.
Okay.
All right.
Wow. If you live that long, right?
Yeah, if your parents left you live that long. That is correct. That's part of the second part of this question. Right? If your parents left you live that long. Okay. Mark, we received an email that says, how much are retirement assets considered when you look at a borrower? For purpose, I guess, obviously, of due diligence.
So at Pacific Private Money, we do what's called either hard money loans or private money loans. That name is used kind of interchangeably, and generally speaking, we like to see them, and it always adds a little pizzazz to the application. But we typically don't really look at that.
Yeah.
Now hard money lending 10, 15, 20 years ago used to be referred to as asset-based lending, meaning if you could just fog a mirror, it didn't matter who you were because the loan was really secured by the asset. Now, that's not so much true anymore thanks to Dodd-Frank and a bunch of regulatory reforms when it comes to lending. So the hard money lending of old really doesn't exist anymore. That kind of predatory shark-like lending, people still do it, but it's illegal nowadays for the most part on residential 1 through 4 property. So So we do still, we take a loan application, we look at bank deposits, make sure the money is there to actually buy that property. But on purchase money loans, we quite frankly, we do a lot of loans to people who have the down payment, but maybe not a whole lot more other than they've got employment and they've got evidence of employment and a history of employment. We're really looking at what's the likelihood that they're going to be able to pay us off with a conventional loan. Because
Right.
quite frankly, when we make a loan at Pacific Private Money, when we make a hard money loan, we expect it to be a short-term solution that they have a viable way of repaying us. We don't like to make long-term loans. I mean, who wants to pay 10% interest
Right,
on a loan
over
long-term?
long-term, yeah.
I mean, it's 2 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever. That's typical if that's what it takes you to get your financial situation together, where you can get bank financing. But again, we just it's nice when an applicant says, I've got $400,000 in an IRA. We go, great. So it just makes us feel better about the borrower, but it's not necessary typically for whether or not we actually decide to go forward and do the loan. We're really looking at, can they afford the payments based on their current income, and do they have a viable way of repaying our loan with a conventional loan, or if they're just buying it to fix and flip, is it likely they're going to succeed in remodeling it and selling it and paying us off?
I would think retirement-based assets for you guys have got to be just like a last resort.
It's icing on the cake
Yeah,
on
I
the
mean,
application. That's all it is, really.
Right.
It just makes it just easier for us to find an investor to fund that loan, because they, quite frankly, they like people that have
Demonstrated.
wealth.
Yeah.
Okay. How do people get a hold of you?
So at Pacific Private Money, it's pacificprivatemoney.com. Fancy that. Or give us a call, 415-883-2150, if you want information on how to get a fast, friendly, and reliable short-term bridge loan to either get that target property you want to buy before you sell the house here and now, or if your bank financing fell out, or if you want to buy a place to fix and flip, or if you want to buy a second home and you want to buy it now and bank finance later. Whatever the reason is, if you need fast financing that you can absolutely 100% rely on, call us. That is what we specialize in. That's what we're known for. We've got great reviews and testimonials on our website from people we help every single day. Call us, we can help you. PacificPrivateMoney.com, 415-883-2150.
Which, by the way, I've run into some people at some meetings, and they say, yeah, Mark's great. He's great to work with. I've gotten some loans from him in the past, and it's just been a joy.
Look, nobody wants to pay 10% for money, but when you absolutely positively have to close next Friday, we can make it happen.
Okay. Now, Rob, before we get to your
Yeah.
question, a couple of quick things. First of all, you guys like Thai food?
Sure.
Love it.
I love Thai food.
Pad
Okay,
Thai.
so Pad Thai, exactly. So our I got
You buying?
well, you bet. I'm going to take you to one of my favorite places here, Bangkok Thai. Have you ever been there at San Rafael?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
right on 4th Street. Now, get this. They
We're a
were
great
voted
family.
best 100 Thai restaurants in the U.S.
Wow.
You know there's a lot of Thai
Yeah.
food restaurants.
There might be 100 in Marin.
There are.
Wow.
So go see my friend Mally or Ben at 857 4th Street. It's Bangkok Thai Express. And in case you want their phone number, 415-453-3350. Food is great. Friends of mine, they're very, very sweet people.
Nice.
Okay, so that's the Bangkok Thai Express on 4th Street, San Rafael. And also one quick thing here. Last week we had a special trivia contest. Winner's going to get a couple of rafting tickets to the all outdoors whitewater rafting. So despite the California drought, they have plenty of water for great rafting trips the remainder of the season. 4 rivers are running right now, the South and Middle Forks of the American, Tuolumne, Cherry Creek. It's all good. All outdoors rafting trips from mellow float trips to the challenging class of Class 5, which I don't know if you've ever been a Class 5, but it's you know wear a helmet for
It's
your helmet.
scary.
Yeah.
But no experience is necessary, but check them out. www.aorafting.com or call is an easy one, 800-24-RAFTS. And if you mention that you heard them on this show, The Best of Investing, you'll get a 20% discount. Okay, and that's only good for the next couple of weeks, so give them a call. So here was the trivia question that we had last week. More than 1 out of 5 people say they have stolen this from a restaurant. What?
Napkin?
toilet paper.
Oh,
What?
Can you believe it?
I'm arrested.
Yeah, and our winner was Francine from Fremont. I guess they stole a few.
yeah,
pieces of
Francine,
toilet
we
paper.
know that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Rob, we got
Yes.
a trivia question for you.
Being
Not
upstaged
trivia.
by,
I'm sorry,
email question.
An email question, yes.
Okay.
It said, do you count retirement funds when considering the ability to repay?
Oh, good question. Okay. So what we're looking at when we start looking at assets to derive an income stream is something known as asset annuitization or asset amortization. So there are some programs that will look at if a borrower, for example, has a sizable retirement account, we'll use a formula to derive an income stream from that and help them with their qualification. So in those cases, you typically have to be of retirement age for obvious reasons in order to get that out of your retirement account. And yes, that can be used in a QM loan, qualified mortgage, against to demonstrate ability to repay. More often, though, when you're talking about a strict asset-based loan, someone comes in and they know that their income is either difficult to document or it's insufficient for the loan and they are not of retirement age, then what you have there most likely is a non-QM loan where the lender is not trying to gain safe harbor, which is a provision of QM. They are trying to demonstrate ability to repay so that they have what's known as rebuttable presumption, meaning that the lender has made steps.
This is radio, please. What you say on the radio?
It's G, I understand. But yeah, so the short answer to the question is retirement accounts can be considered against ability to repay. The lineage is not very direct. Ask your lender specifically for your program and for your profile if that's going to be a good fit for what you're trying to do. We will always look at retirement accounts as assets, though, of course, because you know on a lot of jumbo programs nowadays you need reserves, meaning you close the loan, you make your down payment, your closing costs, and the bank's going to look at how many months of your housing payment are left over.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a bank looking at this, the loans have to be non-recourse for personal residences, right? And so theoretically, IRAs are off the table anyway, but usually if they're liquid at least, you can always sell an IRA, pay the taxes, and then you have some cash.
So when we look at an IRA, for example, in a typical residential mortgage lending situation, if they have $100,000 in an IRA, we're going to give them credit, if you will, for 60% of that.
Okay,
So to allow for penalties and withdrawals, obviously. So, but you're using those unless you have a 401k and you're taking a loan against it, which we do see people do. An IRA account, you don't frequently see people withdrawing against that for that very reason.
No, they run into trouble.
You know, that's a really interesting. We just talked about asset amortization, which is basically looking at your retirement account and saying if you lived off this,
right,
we'll give you credit for that against your income. That reminds me of the term we used to use called asset depletion, which is when you take the equity in someone's home and deplete that over time. That's now no longer legal under Dodd-Frank in a primary residence situation, at least for us as hard money lenders. We can no longer look at the equity in your home solely. You actually have to have real dollar income or other stock or other retirement assets. And oftentimes people come to us for a loan and all they have is maybe $1 billion equity in their home and we can't make them a loan against it.
How does a reverse mortgage, how does Dodd-Frank allow a reverse mortgage then?
It's exempt.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. HECM is exempt. Home equity conversion mortgage is exempt in Dodd-Frank. Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to cut to our last commercial break. When we come back.
How do we get a hold of Ron?
Ron, how do we get a hold of you?
415-367-5959. I work out of the Mill Valley office of RPM Mortgage. And you can also find my bio on the Best of Investing website.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very simple. When we come back, we got some up-to-date stuff to talk about, some real estate stuff. I want to also find out deal of the week. All right. Third trivia question. In which profession does a person wear a toque, T-O-Q-U-E, as part of their uniform? All right. The third caller with the correct answer, one is a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-912-1190 to answer this question. In what profession does a person wear a toque, T-O-Q-U-E? Stay with us. Best of Investing. We'll be right back.
Did you see anything recently from Rick that you liked that I could, because I was going to actually.
He had that 1.5 million one that I'm going to be gone Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it kind of, that one didn't wasn't exciting enough for me to jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I could talk about that. I can't think of anything exciting, and I don't want to be generic again because I'm usually generic on it.
Oh, for that one,
For the
no.
deal of the week.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I
Deal
mean, we
of
could
the
talk about ones that we talked about the one we funded in Santa Rosa. You know, with the family, the parents were guaranteeing to help the.
Oh yeah.
That was a good one.
Remind me of that again. Fuzzy.
It was a family that they,
Oh, the mom, right?
yeah, the mom guarantee,
The
mom
mom-
dad guarantee for the, so they put the mom and dad put their
Right,
house
we had,
collateral.
the LTV was above our 70% ratio.
Yeah.
So the mom, who really wanted to help their son, and weren't they like newly married?
No, but he lost the wife. He's a widow. He's newly widowed.
Newly widowed,
Yeah.
like
And
newly
he
married.
had a decent down payment, but it wasn't enough for him, you know, with his income and all that, to qualify for a
So
regular
she
loan.
kids?
And
Cross
he's
collateralized
got a couple of kids,
property.
yeah, so we crossed. So we got the primary residence and we got mom and dad's free and clear home. Yeah, remember you have to add that when you talk about this loan. I see that mustache on the railroad tracks.
Got it.
We only charge them 38% interest.
Just make sure that's not my wife.
Oh, we see how much.
It's Alec Wang. I think I can let that go to VM. VM or BM?
We have here 14
Yeah, let's do. We'll throw a deal of the week towards the end of the fourth. Let's let
Okay.
Rob. Let's dig into some of these
I
articles.
want to go
Talk
into
a
the
little
rental
about-
stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of. A lot of the news today was, the July figures just came out. In July, everyone's excited because July is like up year over year, one of the best months in unit sales, both in the state and annually. But again, it's just, we all know what we're staring at. We're staring at an interest rate hike and overheated prices, and I don't know that we're going to get into all that, but it's just interesting how a lot of positive spin and news has come out this week in real estate, which sounds all like an NAR rah-rah.
Yeah.
I keep looking at this photo. It looks like a Cialis poster or something. If they were about
Yeah.
10 years older each, they look like they're about to turn those clothes off when the time is right.
Is that the buy for Viagra?
Yeah.
Are you going tonight?
Cialis.
Bay Area Wealth Builders?
No, I got to go back into the city. Yeah. For Christine.
All right,
See
ready?
what she gets in.
Yep. I'll see if I can make it for the team.
What's our time?
14:29.
How much time do we have?
We have 14:29.
Okay.
Ooh, the long segment.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn and Rob Spinoza. When we get to the third commercial break, we asked this trivia question. In which profession does a person wear a toque, T-O-Q-U-E, as part of their uniform?
No clue.
A chef. That's what they call the hat.
Ah,
All right. Somebody will get that one.
So we'll get that one.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob, you got some stuff about rentals going on?
yeah, we talk a lot in our industry right now, and I think a lot of the real estate industry is trying to garner the attention and figure out where the millennials are going to go. And we have a lot of discussions about this within our company because of the fact that you've got this demographic out there,
Huge
demographic out there, and you're trying to figure them out. What are their likes, their dislikes? What do they plan to do with housing? When will they stop sleeping on their parents' couch? All those kind of things. And I came across a recent article. Nationwide rents have risen 15% on average between 2009 and 2014. Meanwhile, renters' incomes have grown by only 11%.
Right.
Okay.
If that.
If that, right. And
Yeah.
so this is specifically addressing millennials, but one of the things we have to look at in our industry is that, and it says it right here in this article, longer rental times coupled with higher rental costs are causing renters to struggle with saving for a down payment. So, this is what we find. Here in Marin, you have median home prices grossly out of line with median income.
Absolutely.
Right? I think the median income here in Marin is
Well, let's get
75K.
richer the poor get poor. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, see? Wait, Donald Trump just walked in.
Supply and demand, baby.
So you've got an industry like ours trying to figure out how to position itself to accommodate this within the guidelines of existing lending. And it's been a challenge. I think the point I'm trying to make here is that millennials, if they're in that renter's trap, they have to identify what is their time frame, and they have to get informed about what we have available. I have another article here. It says 64.2% of millennials put down less than 20% on their purchase. To me, that's encouraging, despite talk about bubbles and all the other kind of stuff and people's concerns that the lending industry is going back to where it was. We definitely don't see that happening.
No.
But I do think more people need to know that they have a choice of renting in an environment that's quite hostile, or perhaps looking at getting into a house at their first opportunity. And I think that's encouraging, and they should do it.
I'm absolutely a proponent of finding any way possible to buy
I agree.
now. Even if you believe that we're in a frothy market and maybe prices might go down, you want to lock in these low interest rates while you can.
It's interesting. In 1979, when I was in college, our economics and statistics professor said, "You know what? Just do anything you can to buy real estate."
Yeah.
And I got another article here. It says, for money you wouldn't need for more than 10 years, which one of the following do you think would be the best way to invest in? 27% real estate, 23% cash investments, 17% stock market, 14% gold and precious metals, 5% bonds.
Well, cash investments really means no investment. It's just kind of
So the number one choice is real estate, which again I completely agree with. I still think and believe emphatically that real estate is still the number one opportunity to build wealth in your life.
I had a meeting with a potential buyer this morning, and what was interesting is her concern was being shut out by multiple offers and all cash offers and things like that. And I said, that's not really within your control. That's not something to focus on. I think what more buyers would be wise to do is look at the maximum capacity they have within their comfort zone to borrow or to buy a property. What are their resources for coming up with a down payment? And then identifying properties that fit what their goals are. And then after that, you know what? It's out of your control. Get accustomed to making an offer on a property. Obviously, respect the sensibilities of your real estate agent. I mean, don't offer $500,000 on a house that you know is going to go for $750,000. But on the other hand, if you have a sense of where you need to be within the market, it's more of a process than an event. And I don't think enough buyers recognize that, and they get deterred by the fact that, hey, this is just too tough of a market to get into. I'm not going to buy real estate. And I think that's completely the wrong stance to take right now, despite where the market may be.
Look, the most successful baseball players strike out or
Right,
ground
good
out,
point.
get out most of the time, the vast majority.
Yeah.
And so, playing in real estate, the game of real estate, the contact sport of real estate, requires the reality that you're going to lose those bids many times. And so you don't let it discourage you. You absolutely need to focus on, okay, what's next?
Well, that reminds me of the deal of the week, because we talked about this. It was a property in Santa Rosa that I think the guy, he was the backup offer. Something happened with the first offer that didn't go through. So he wanted to make sure he wasn't going to lose it, and he came to you for a loan.
Right, and he came to us, though. Now, here's what's interesting about the story. So he was a recent widower with kids, and he was looking to buy this home. Suddenly, he had an opportunity right in front of him. The guy in front of him fell out, and so he had his 20% down, but he couldn't get bank financing. And we at Pacific Private Lending typically don't do 80% loans. So what happens? Mom steps in because mom lives locally, which wasn't really important. She could have lived anywhere in the state, maybe even out of state. She was willing to put up her free and clear home as additional collateral. Yeah, so
Nice.
So we were able to use mom's home as additional collateral and make a loan to this gentleman. That cross collateralization actually made the loan extremely
Attractive.
attractive to our
It's a
Yeah.
free and clear house.
Yeah.
It's worth at least $500,000.
And you know what I think the moral of the story is, and I was reminded of that this morning when I was talking with this individual, is that you've got to get informed. And I think that's the purpose of the show. I mean, if you're listening right now, if you routinely listen to Best of Investing, if you don't know these things exist, if you don't know what cross-collateralization means, that's one less tool you have available to become a homeowner.
Well, the interesting thing on this loan was the fact, because I knew a little bit about this loan, Mark and I had talked about it, was, the first thing you think of is, well, why don't the parents go and just
Give them the money.
No, just go get a conventional loan on
Okay.
their house and give it and buy a house,
Right.
whatever. But the issue was, they didn't really want to borrow the money themselves.
Right.
They just wanted to just be a guarantor just in case he did So yeah, it basically clouds their title with a lien, and if they ever do refinance,
They
but
have
there's
to-
release prices on there, so
Right.
they're not tied up.
It's also a speed issue because they didn't have an
Yeah.
endless amount of time. The seller wasn't gonna wait around, he was gonna go give it to the next guy.
Yeah,
So
that was the third
so there was an
Right,
opportunity
right.
and a timing, and again, when time is an issue and you
Time is always of the essence in
Yeah,
real estate. I
time's
mean,
always-
that's one of the things
right.
we find time and again is that you've got situations that unfold. Real estate transactions are inherently complex. So,
Yeah.
you know, I had a deal come up this week where the buyer went in without any contingencies. She was aggressive. She needed to get the property. She wanted to go into contract, loved the property. Loan fell through. So, you know, lo and behold, you get a call and it's a real estate agent and they're concerned that now their buyer is exposed, their deposit is at risk. And, you know, we see these scenarios all the time. I think the general public assumes it's bank financing or nothing. When they become more broadly educated about what's out there, I think they can approach real estate in a much more pragmatic manner and know that, yeah, there's probably a way to solve this and help me become a homeowner.
Another thing worth talking about is we throw out the term bank financing generically to
Right,
just mean
right.
traditional,
Residential,
conventional residential financing. And one of the things about RPM Mortgage, Rob, is that you guys aren't a typical. First of all, you're not a bank, which, and we all know the major banks, the Wells, B of A,
Right.
Chase City, they can be awfully difficult to work with, and oftentimes you're working with someone who's maybe only been in the banking business for a few years because
True.
we're usually training grounds for future mortgage brokers. But you're also not like the typical mortgage broker who's going to take an application and shop it around
Correct.
to a bunch of houses. You guys are actual bankers yourselves.
We are a non-depository mortgage lender. We're a mortgage bank. Most of the business we do will be banked. It will be underwritten by
When you
our
say
bank.
non-depository, it means I can't just come in and say, here, I want to put $5 in my checking account.
Right, exactly.
But
All we do is mortgages.
But you're
Right.
but you're different than a lot of other mortgage companies in that you guys are able to make faster decisions and actually close quicker.
Yeah,
than a lot of them.
we have a tremendous banking architecture behind us, a lot of support. Everything is underwritten in-house. It gives me, as an agent, great authority to go out there and talk with real estate professionals and my clients and say, this is how it's going to play out, this is what we're going to do, and I'm accountable. And if you have questions or I have questions, we can get answers quickly. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what we do best.
What are you seeing as typical closing times for your
I got a funny story for you. One of my colleagues, who happens to be a great loan officer in Benicia, Monica Jones, she had a deal where she got it fully approved in 6 days. Because of the regulation, she had to wait a day because you can't close a loan within 7 days of the application.
That's true. Right?
So she had a
7-day waiting period.
Yeah, she had to cool off for a day before they can close the loan.
Well, interesting. I ran into my banker, and he had lost out on the deal because he had sort of forgotten that we could do hard money loans. And he couldn't qualify in time. He actually couldn't qualify himself because he owns his house, but his income wouldn't allow for him to buy this rental property.
Yeah.
And he was going to get a screaming deal on this. I chewed him out a little bit. I said, you should have called Mark.
You got to think outside of the box on
Right.
some of those deals because
But Rob,
I mean,
that's amazing that at RPM
Yeah,
you guys were able to put a deal together in 7 days.
that's a nice story. I mean, what we're seeing more typically right now, and I've been telling buyers this, one of the really interesting dynamics about our business is that we're coming off of, fortunately right now, we're coming off of about 8 to 9 month highs in interest rates.
Yeah.
So things are actually better now than they were a month ago. But we had a prolonged period where rates were rising. So when rates are rising, the volumes at the bank drop because refinance activity falls out.
Yeah.
So if you're a buyer right now, you have a great opportunity because rates are better and you can get your loan closed quickly. So a 20-day close right now is completely
What about the
efficient.
appraisal, though?
Well, the appraisal, what we'll do on those is we'll order them on a rush. You can order them on day one. There is a way to work with regulation where you order it. The borrower can't pay for it initially, but we'll order it on day one, and then it'll come in on day 3 or 4.
A full appraisal?
Yeah, full appraisal. And as long as the appraiser is, you're in an area, like I had a deal in Central California, and it took forever to get the appraisal assigned. But here in Marin or the Bay Area, no problem at all with most cases. Yeah, we get it assigned pretty quick.
Wow.
Yeah. So, we've had some scenarios. I closed the deal in Los Altos Hills in 18 days, start to finish. Self-employed borrower. He had a short sale in his history,
Wow.
$1.5 million loan, and it closed in 18 days. Yeah,
So it can happen.
absolutely.
What are you thinking it might be the impact of these upcoming regulations that we're staring down the barrel of?
TRID?
Yeah, TRID, October 1st. We've talked a little bit about that in prior shows, but tell the audience again what's in store for conventional financing regulations in October 1st.
So TRID is Tiller RESPA integrated disclosures, and really what's got everybody concerned is that the buyers are now going to have a mandatory 3-day waiting period to review their closing disclosure. Right now, on a typical transaction, the bank provides the escrow company with with the loan documents, and then the escrow company draws up an estimated settlement statement or a HUD, and that is what the buyer brings in their funds based on. That's the balance sheet for the transaction. What TRID is going to require is now lenders are responsible for discrepancies in the HUD.
Yeah.
So lenders are not going to leave that to title companies. They're going to become the title companies, and they're going to produce the closing disclosure. And then the buyer will have 3 days to examine that before they can sign. They cannot waive that right. So, and if there are one of 3 things, we won't get into the details, that derail that or change that closing disclosure, there's another 3-day waiting period.
Wow, and what's the name of the regulation?
Tiller RESPA integrated disclosure, or TRID.
TRID for short.
I have to remind you, we are a G-rated show. Yeah. Stop with all the acronyms.
It's an acronym of an acronym.
Yeah, exactly.
TILA stands for Truth in Lending, and then and RESPA is Real Estate Settlements Procedures Act. So there you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
more in store for
Yeah.
new regulations thanks to Dodd-Frank. We'll talk about those more in future shows.
And
Yeah.
real quickly before we get to our thoughts for the day, Mark, you're still paying over 8% on your fund, aren't you?
We are. We've actually had some great months this summer where we've been significantly over 8% on an annualized basis on our monthly distributions.
Check Mark out at pacificprivatemoney.com.
Absolutely.
Okay, here's our thoughts for the day. Everyone has a photographic memory. Some just don't have film. And how do you tell when you run out of invisible ink?
Oh, that's a Stephen Wright joke, isn't it?
Is it?
Put a thief with fire and you put a fire in the same room, let's fight it up.
Okay, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We're wishing you the best of investing. So long.
HWGreen.com. Actually, sounds pretty good. I'll have to check them out.